Some people spend years studying English, listening to international music, binge-watching shows with subtitles, reading tweets in English, and still introduce themselves by saying, "I don't speak English." The irony? They understood that sentence, and they understood it effortlessly. The problem isn't knowledge, it's identity. When someone keeps saying they don't know, they're not really talking about the language. They're talking about an outdated version of themselves. It's like using English as a mirror, but only seeing the reflection of someone insecure, even though they're way more prepared than they realize. It's like someone who loses weight but keeps wearing oversized clothes because their mind hasn't caught up with their new body. English works the same way. The brain already gets what it needs to, but your linguistic self-esteem hasn't downloaded the update. And then you're stuck in a cruel paradox. The more you know, the more afraid you are to show it. Like speaking imperfectly is worse than never trying at all. That's when emotional fluency becomes more important than grammatical fluency. Because what's missing isn't vocabulary. It's internal permission. Permission to mess up, to take a risk, and finally speak. This is the most invisible part of learning. The moment when you already understand English but haven't yet allowed yourself to speak it. That happens because we were taught to associate fluency with perfection, as if misusing a preposition is worse than staying silent. But real-life English is full of slips, contractions, improvisation, and even memes. If you think you can only speak once you hit C2 level, you'll waste years of practice and life. But what if the real issue was never your English? A lot of people say, "Now I'm really going to start learning English." And they say this after years of consuming English content every single day. But why does it feel like the beginning only now? Simple, because most people measure learning by what they can say, not by what they already understand. But comprehension comes first, and that's too powerful to ignore. When you understand a song without subtitles or get a joke on TikTok, that's fluency being built. You just don't notice it because you're still waiting for some internal certificate that might never show up. That "I'm just starting now" feeling is like thinking you're late to a race when you've already run half the course. English is already in your routine, but you don't yet recognize yourself as someone who speaks it. And that's because fluency got romanticized. Everyone thinks they'll suddenly feel fluent one magical day. But that day doesn't exist. Fluency is an invisible transition. It begins the moment you understand enough to get by, even if you make mistakes, even if your sentences are simple. And believe it or not, that moment is already happening. Imagine a violinist who's listened to classical music for years, understands every note, but doesn't consider himself a musician until he plays on stage. Makes no sense, right? English is the same. Your ears are already trained, you know more structures than you admit, and you could probably order food, follow a movie, or have a basic conversation. But you're still hiding behind the old belief that you're just getting started. That's the real villain. The delay caused by the illusion that you're not ready yet. But what if the problem is this exact idea of readiness that doesn't look anything like what you imagined? Some people carry the phrase "my English is terrible" like it's part of their full name. They've said it for so long it's basically their identity. Even when they understand series, have watched dozens of YouTube videos with no subtitles, and have memorized entire song lyrics, they still claim they don't know English. But why? Because there's an emotional loyalty, almost invisible, to an old version of themselves. The one who froze in class, who mispronounced vegetables, who felt ashamed just trying. And the brain used to that old character resists letting it go. That loyalty works like an anchor. Keeps you stuck even when the current of growth is pulling you forward. Changing how you see yourself takes courage, because it means admitting you're no longer who you used to be. And strangely, that's scary. Some people even feel guilty for starting to feel fluent, like they're betraying a version of themselves who was never good at languages. But here's the truth. That's not loyalty. It's self-sabotage in disguise. You have to let go of insecurity if you want to step into your new linguistic identity. It's like being in a dark room with the light already on, but you're too scared to open your eyes. And what keeps them shut? Habit. The human mind loves patterns even if they're limiting lies. That old version of you who said, "I can't learn English," used to protect you from frustration from being judged. But now it's only holding you back. And the key to real transformation isn't a new course, method, or app. It's looking in the mirror and saying, "That old story is over." But what if the new story is already being written in the background? There's a kind of self-sabotage that wears the mask of humility. That classic line, "Oh, I barely speak English, I just understand the basics." But if you've been listening to English songs since you were a teen, watching videos without subtitles, even dreaming in English, you're not being modest. You're afraid of committing to your own evolution. Because let's be honest, if you say you don't know, no one expects anything from you. It's a comfort zone wrapped in a blanket of humility. Safe but dishonest. It's easy to hide behind a never-ending, "I'm just a beginner." No one pressures you, no one judges you, no one expects fluency. But no one grows that way either. True humility isn't hiding what you know. It's recognizing what you do know, and being okay with being halfway there. Some people understand English jokes, mentally translate daily phrases, answer, "How are you?" with ease, yet still act like they know nothing. That's not humility. That's just a subtle way of avoiding the discomfort of being seen trying, and maybe failing. And that's where self-sabotage wins. The more someone downplays their ability, the more they convince themselves they're not ready. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you say you don't know, you don't try. If you don't try, you don't grow. If you don't grow, you prove you don't know. The cycle closes. What's wild? This happens more to people who know more than they realize. And the more that pattern repeats, the more it becomes a mental habit. And habits, as we know, are hard to break. But what if this is the exact habit that's holding you back from your next step? The fear of making mistakes in public paralyzes more than lack of vocabulary. It's that little voice whispering, "What if I say it wrong? What if they laugh at me?" But what if I told you that making mistakes is exactly how fluency happens? The truth is, no one learns to speak English or any language without going through the awkward phase of mixing up words, forgetting things, or making up weird phrases. That's not failure. That's practice. And if you skip that, you skip the process. It's like trying to learn to swim without getting your hair wet. Being a brave beginner is a sign of maturity. It means you're not trying to impress anyone, just being honest with your process. And when you understand that, mistakes stop looking like proof you're not good enough and start becoming signs of growth. You know what's beautiful? When someone dares to make mistakes in public, they give others permission to do the same. Ever seen a kid try to speak English? They mess up everything, laugh, and keep going. That's exactly why they learn faster. The problem is, adults feel like they have to get it right the first time, which is unrealistic and unnecessary. If you're afraid of making mistakes, try changing your mindset. Instead of saying, "I'm going to try to get it right," say, "I'm going to let myself practice." And practice means stumbling. So go ahead, order a coffee in English, record a voice note just to practice, reply to a comment in English on Instagram. It might feel small, but that's how you start finding your voice. The person who gives full talks in English today once froze trying to say, "Nice to meet you." Everyone starts like that. And the ones who don't start never get there. But what if your English has been ready to come out, just waiting for you to make room? There's English dripping into your day and you don't even notice. When you hit play on a YouTube video, pause a story because it said "wait for it," or instantly no sale means discount, you're already using English. That's because your brain has been exposed to the language for years, passively but consistently. You already know what feedback, login, download, mood, vibe, and spoiler mean. And you didn't need a grammar book to learn that. That's a kind of fluency you don't study, you absorb it. The funny thing is, even after all that, you still feel like you don't know enough. Why? Because no one ever taught you to value this kind of informal exposure as real learning. But it is. If you understand memes in English, you already have something even advanced students sometimes lack. Contextual reading. Like knowing that "I'm dead" means someone's laughing hard, not actually dead. That's cultural fluency, and it's gold. If you understand English on Instagram, TikTok, or in music, congrats. You're carrying the language in your pocket, your ears, and your subconscious. But since no one stamped a certificate saying you leveled up, you still walk around feeling like something's missing. So even if you already understand a lot, you introduce yourself like you're just getting started. It's like having money in your savings but still saying you're broke, just because you haven't checked your balance. English is already there working. You just need to stop, take a look, and recognize it. And that changes everything. Because the moment you realize how much you already know, you start speaking from a different place. But what if you're more ready than you think, and just needed someone to show you? A lot of people still think learning English is about memorizing phrases like collecting stickers. Can I have a coffee? Where is the bathroom? I'm fine, thank you. And that's okay as a starting point. The problem is when someone becomes dependent on those phrases, as if English were a scripted play. But real communication doesn't happen from a script. It comes from improvising, listening, and trusting. Trusting what you already understand, even if you don't know the grammar name for it, is a massive step toward real fluency. When you begin to understand meaning, not just structure, something powerful happens. You realize you don't need to remember the exact sentence you saw in an app. You just need to know what you want to say. Instead of memorizing "I'd like to order a pizza," you understand that order means ask for. And suddenly you can say things like, "I want pizza. Can I get a pizza?" Or even "pizza, please." And they all work. That's when language stops being something you repeat and starts being something you live. You stop sounding like a parrot and start sounding like you. That transition is subtle, but it's everything. It's the moment you stop chasing approval and start chasing connection. Speaking English isn't about being perfect. It's about being understood. And that confidence comes the minute you stop doubting what you already get and start letting yourself use it. Every time you answer a simple question without needing to translate it in your head, that confidence muscle grows. But it only grows with use. And if you've understood everything set up to this point, maybe it's time to stop memorizing and start trusting. There comes a point when hearing "you already know" just isn't enough. You need to prove it to yourself. And the best way to do that? Simple. Put your English into practice, but in a way that shows how much you already understand without translating. Want a suggestion? Pick a short video with no subtitles on a topic you love. Travel, music, gaming, fashion, and watch it closely. Then pause and write down everything you understood. Don't translate word for word. Just write the general idea, the feelings, the words you recognized. You'll be surprised by how much is already inside you. Another powerful practice. Record voice notes to yourself. Yep, like a personal audio diary, but in English. It can be simple stuff like "what I did today," or "how I feel right now." You don't have to show anyone. The idea is to create a safe space where you start hearing yourself speak. And realize that yes, you can communicate. Mistakes don't matter. What matters is noticing how your brain already connects words, how your thoughts already shape into sentences. That builds linguistic confidence in a way no app ever could. And if you want to take it up a notch, start replying to comments in English on social media. Whether it's TikTok, Reels, or YouTube, interacting with native speakers or other learners exposes you to real English, not textbook English. And you know what the biggest gain is? It's not about showing others what you know. It's about proving it to yourself. Because deep down, that internal shift is what turns an insecure learner into a growing communicator. But what if that communicator is already more ready than you think? There's a moment when the hardest part is no longer understanding English. It's stopping yourself from pretending you don't. And that has nothing to do with vocabulary. It has everything to do with listening to yourself. Because as long as you keep saying, "I don't know," your brain will keep obeying that command. It's like driving with the handbrake on even when the tank's full. English is already flowing inside you, but the identity you silently repeat is still stuck in the past. And out of loyalty to that outdated story, you keep sabotaging yourself without even noticing. The shift begins when you choose to trust what you feel, not just what others validate. When something makes sense in English, when a joke makes you laugh, when a song hits you even before you translate it, that's you listening to yourself. Most people wait for outside approval. A grade, a certificate, a pat on the back from someone fluent. But the real breakthrough happens when you finally let yourself realize, "I got that, and nobody had to tell me how." That's when English stops being a school subject and becomes part of your life experience. And once you truly start listening to yourself, everything shifts. Because that's when the most important process begins. Rewriting your own narrative. You stop introducing yourself as someone who doesn't know, and start showing up as someone who's actively learning. You leave the role of passive observer and step into your own spotlight. It's not about becoming fluent overnight. It's about stopping the act of pretending you're starting from scratch. And maybe, just maybe, you'll realize this new chapter has already been writing itself quietly, just waiting for you to finally listen. Now that you've seen how much English already lives inside you, here's the question. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to keep hiding behind, "My English is bad"? Or will you finally accept that maybe it's time to stop playing small and start using what you already know, even with mistakes, even with fear? Fluency isn't a certificate. It's a decision. And it begins the moment you decide to trust yourself. So tell me, at what point in this video did you realize you understood more than you thought? What was the phrase, the example, the insight that flipped the switch for you? Drop it in the comments, because this kind of conversation might unlock someone else, too. And if this message spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Save it. Share it. And of course, subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell icon. Because here you'll keep learning English in a way that transforms your mind, your emotions, and the way you see yourself. You already know. Now all that's left is to believe it.